Now, I do like to make the distinction between what I call biological intuitive and medical intuitive, only because I felt that there was just such a stigma with medical intuition. So, for example, as I was reaching out to doctors back in the late 90s and early 2000s, they would be like, well, can you see auras? I would say, no. Well, can you see chakras? No. I go, well, what I would do is I would come in and look at the patient, and I use this language of textures that I've translated. You're going to meet with the patient? Absolutely not. That's not how medical intuition works. And I thought to myself, well, don't doctors meet with their patients? And if your doctor had this awareness and they could meet with you, wouldn't that be of value? And I remember one time uh, I had a woman contact me for a session, and she said, a friend recommended, I don't know who you are, but a friend recommended me to you. And I go, okay, well, let me tell you how I work. And she goes, well, I know how you people work. And I'm like, well, I'm like, maybe you don't, because again, I don't have X-ray vision. I don't, so, and I began to also see like the competitiveness of medical intuition in terms of like, if you're not 100% accurate, 100% time for the medical community, then you're full of nanny duty cocky poo poo. Um, but conventional diagnoses is not 100% accurate. Pharmaceutical drugs are not 100% accurate, and that's okay. But then if you come along with a different version, it's got to be perfect, or we're not even going to pay any attention. So there was a lot of different standards. And what I found, too, was that sometimes people's bodies would start to demonstrate indicators before there was an illness or a pathology. But what it was telling me was more about what was going on with that person. That if they became aware, they could perhaps avert what's coming down the pike. And so I began to see what as a biologist isn't really doing medical diagnoses. And I understand there's a department of biology that does focus on that. But by and large, a biologist is looking at, living organisms, what sustains life, and the environment that those organisms live in, and how well that also supports their life. And so when I look at people out in the world as social creatures out there in our relationships, to me that's our biological environment as it relates to health as I have come to understand it. And we'll be talking more about those details tomorrow in terms of what the body says that people can do to get well. And for the people that I have worked with that listen to what their body says, they have gotten well. Some with their medications and some without medications or treatments. For the people that did not listen to what their body had to say, they are still struggling with their health. So to me, that's a lot of the value. And you have to have a title. So I just wanted to get away from the stigma of medical intuition. And it just seems like if you don't fit into a pre-assigned category of, well, are you clairsentient? Are you a remote viewer? Are you a spirit channel? Well, you're talking about feel and textures. That doesn't, there's no such thing as that. So therefore, it can't exist. So, and I would also say too, that this weekend is about me showing and explaining to you a curiosity I had about my senses. Now, I know you're all here because you also want to learn to see organ indicators or to enter this realm of biology that's relatively unheard of. But at the same time, I would say what would be more important or more valuable to me is if it reminds you of perceptions you had when you were younger, or it reminds you of abilities that you had that you were younger that you perhaps discounted or didn't think mattered. Or just as I've worked with healthcare providers and they're like, oh my gosh, I've been seeing this for years with my patients and I had no idea it had anything to do with their diabetes. I had no idea it had anything to do with their elevated bilirubins or whatever the situation was. But it became a big aha moment for them. So yeah, we're going to learn about indicators this week, but at the same time, most important to me would be to inspire your curiosity. Because I say that most people out there in the world are having experiences and perceptions that don't fit into our ordinary boxes, and they don't have conventional psychology, psychiatry, or conventional science to back them up so that they would at least continue to be in the exploration of it. and don't think it's going to be easy. I came up against a lot of resistance with this. It wasn't easy finding doctors. It wasn't easy, being heard. So be ready for resistance, and I say that's good news. That's a sign that you're onto something. Because if you just get apathy when you share ideas with people, then probably just not even tipping the boat, certainly not rocking the boat.